And to details, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi issued a decree on Wednesday appointing Tariq Amer as a presidential advisor. President el-Sisi praised Amer's sincere efforts during the period he took over responsibilities as governor of the Central Bank of Egypt. Earlier, the president accepted Amer's request to pardon him from the post. For his part, Amer expressed gratitude and appreciation for President el-Sisi's support, stressing that he retired from his post to boost new figures to continue the country's successful development process under the leadership of President el-Sisi. Upon directives of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to send aid to Sudan in the framework of Egypt's support and solidarity with the Sudanese people in times of crisis, Egypt sent 5 military planes loaded with aid to Sudan. The aid included food, tents, blankets and medical tools. This comes in the framework to alleviate the burdens on the Sudanese people. This also comes to confirm the depth of the distinguished Egyptian-Sudanese relations. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli affirmed that the Projects of Decent Life initiative top the government's priorities as it is following up their latest developments in all governorates. The Premier remarks came during his visit to Alexandria Governorate on Wednesday to inspect a number of projects of the presidential initiative, where the Prime Minister gave his directives to implement those projects according to the scheduled timetable upon the directives of President el-Sisi to improve the citizens' living conditions. The Prime Minister visited Abu Sir village in Burg Al Arab as he was briefed on the progress of the projects there. The Premier also inspected services complex and water pump projects in the village. The Armed Forces Engineering Authority is implementing about 86 of these projects in 4 villages. Following his tour, the Premier gave statements on the outcomes of his visit to Alexandria, asserting that the government is working on upgrading all ports nationwide upon the directives of President el-Sisi. The Prime Minister also said that a new fish market will be established. Within the framework of its strategy, the Interior Ministry continued its efforts to combat any types of crimes across the country. The ministry continued its campaigns to follow up and control prices of strategic commodities. The ministry arrested a number of traders who used to hide strategic commodities to sell them in black markets and detained others who were selling expired products. Moreover, it captured about 228 tons of hidden food and non-food commodities and more than 82 tons of subsidized goods. And to details. Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources Tariq Al-Mullah discussed with the Executive Director of the Danish company Hallard Topsoe and his accompanying delegation means of cooperation in energy transformation projects and the possibility of benefiting from the company's expertise in green ammonia. The minister said that Egypt's efforts have been reviewed to become a regional center for energy. He added that the importance of green ammonia has been discussed, as well as means of benefiting from the company's expertise in advanced technologies for blue chemicals, which contributes in achieving Egypt's ambitious goals on the short term in limiting carbon emissions during transiting to green solutions. The Egyptian bourse gained £9.3 billion on Wednesday. The market's main index, EGX 30, was up 2.18% to reach 1,058.12 points. The equal weight index, EGX 70, added 0.55% to reach 2,161.88 points. Meanwhile, the broader index, EGX 100, was up 0.99% to reach 3,095.22 points. Welcome back, and talking about Decent Life Initiative.
Well, of course, this is one of the most important initiatives adopted by the Egyptian leadership. And especially that we have Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli who inspected recently the projects in Alexandria in different places, talking about the projects of Decent Life Initiative. The Premier also talked about how this important initiative comes on the top of the government's priorities. Well, over the phone we have Dr. Youmn Hamaki, Professor of Economics at Shams University. Hello.
Hello, good morning, Nasha.
Good morning, Doctor. So first of all, we're like to talk more about the impacts of the Decent Life Initiative on Egyptians in general, and in particular, we're talking about Alexandria.
Actually, Nashwa, you know that the Decent Life Project is a very promising initiative by the President in order to address poverty and to improve the quality of life for, the Egyptians that are suffering from poverty. And according to that, you know quite well that we have been through, starting from 2016, we have been through several crises, starting from COVID and the Ukrainian war, and before that, the devaluation of Egyptian pound has been reflected on, inflation, and according to that, these people were affected seriously by these repercussions. From here it comes, the initiative of Decent Life in order to improve the quality of life in a holistic approach, which means that in all these villages, all aspects of life as services for citizens to improve the quality of life are addressed, like sanitation, like drink water, and health services, educational services. All these are taking into consideration in Decent Life. What has happened yesterday is that Dr. Mustafa Madbouli has, a monitoring, in a way of monitoring the, performance of this initiative. He has been in one of the village in Alexandria to follow up to how extent, these projects are doing well and to how extent they are achieving the goals of improving the quality of life. This type of monitoring is quite important for this period, because we are pouring in this project of Decent Life approximately more than approximately 1 trillion Egyptian pounds. So this is huge spending that needs to large extent to be monitored and evaluated in every aspect. And this visit is coming in order to follow what's going on and to what extent the project is achieving the goals. From my perspective, and we have been discussing that, Nashwa, several times in the breakfast show, that in this period specifically, what I am interested in as priority is to concentrate on economic empowerment of poor people, because, we have been through different projects before in Egypt in order to improve the quality of life by improving services for poor people. But still, if you don't, address unemployment and poor skills, specifically, you are going to find that the population in these areas are concentrated in technical education, and illiterate youth and women specifically. So all these social problems need to be addressed properly, concentrating on, directing and coaching the youth and women specifically, because when you take gender perspective into consideration, I believe this will be reflected quite well on the society. And from here it comes the importance of, improving skills, directing youth and women towards opportunities of job, either in the geographic area or near it, directing them to micro and small projects. So, I was actually looking forward to see the activities done in this respect.
Doctor, usually when we talk about Decent Life Initiative and its impact on Egyptians in general, maybe the most important part that usually attracts all of us and touches our feelings is the children, because it has a huge impact on the children as well, the leaders of the future.
Yes, of course, I agree with you, starting from following the health situation of mothers and taking care that mothers in all, different stages of pregnancy are taking, the right health services. This is going to have, or is actually having a very important repercussions on the health of children. Besides, we have to admit that we had a lot of social problems coming from poverty, like labor child, like children in the street, and I believe this phenomena has decreased significantly during the last period due to extensive efforts to address such phenomena. But still, we have a lot of social problems regarding, the situation of families, the stabilization of families, the awareness of people in these areas, illiteracy and to how extent affecting people, addiction in this area, marriage of girls in very early years. All these can be considered as severe social problems that need to be addressed properly. And actually, when we do such a holistic approach of improving the quality of life, all these challenges should be addressed properly. And from my point of view, according to my experiences in different, I have a very promising experience in Bani Suef and Helwan to address poverty of women by using economic empowerment. And according to, our studies, because I'm following what women are doing after taking, extensive training in garment and in different other skills, after that, the quality of life and their lives are changing completely because, they are nowadays concentrating on gaining their lives. They can take care better of their children. And I believe the situation of family is changing completely. And when you address youth, unemployment of youth and direct them to training and to opportunities of job, I believe this can have a very important impact on the project and can sustain such a project. From my point of view, the sustainability of these projects or this initiative should be by concentrating on this economic side that is quite essential, side to be taken side by improving the services in these areas.
Doctor, how do you see the importance of Abu Sir and also Burj Al Arab port in Alexandria and its impact on Alexandria?
In Burj Al Arab, when you take such a project into consideration, Burj Al Arab it's an industrial zone, Nashwa. And, most of investors in this area are suffering from lack of skilled labor. And, when you talk about the competitiveness of the industrial sector and you would like to increase your export into achieving $100 billion, when you talk about all these human resources, should be addressed properly, and you have to guarantee the level of skills necessary to achieve such a competitiveness. And from here it comes the importance that we need to upgrade the skills of those youth in these areas and enable them as opportunities of jobs. This is a win-win situation because you are supporting the businessmen and women in finding, the skills required for their factories from one perspective. From another, you are opening opportunities for changing the quality of life of these youth and actually concentrating on building their life in a new career. The career path is one of the main challenge for our youth, in all levels of education.
Right. Just allow me to move on into a quick break. Then we'll be back to talk more about Egyptian economy and Egypt's relation with its, let's say, with the whole region. Welcome back. Still, we are talking about Egyptian economy with our guest over the phone, Dr. Youmn Hamaki, Professor of Economics at Shams University. Doctor, talking about Egypt, we are talking about Egypt's relations with Arab countries, with the Gulf area, with whether we're talking about the Arab level or the international level. So talking, for example, about Egypt's relations with the United Arab Emirates. So when we talk about economic relations and talking about all the huge projects taking place in Egypt and how we can attract more investments from the United Arab Emirates and boost this economic relations.
Actually, Nashwa, this is very important topic since what we are seeing around us as international challenges facing the Arab countries should, lead us, all Arab economies, to more being integrated socially, politically, and economically. And our relation with United Arab Emirates has gained momentum for the last period, talking about foreign investment coming from United Emirates, approximately nowadays around to $10 billion. And nowadays we are trying to diversify such investment. We had, agreement with United Arab Emirates and Jordan in order to deepen industrialization among the countries. What is the meaning of deepening industrialization among the countries? It means that we have to integrate our comparative advantage, which means that if United Arab Emirates is having oil, we can have refining and then moving into petrochemicals and so on. And from petrochemicals, you can move into chemical products that are essential for the industrial sector, generally speaking. So, we have, learned the lesson from the Ukraine war that, we have to achieve some degree of self-sufficiency, not from Egypt perspective and Emirates or Arab countries perspective, but from, regional perspective, taking into consideration the interest of Arab countries. And from here it comes the importance of enhancing our relation and strengthening our relations economically. And here it comes, United Arab Emirates, we have very important relations. The wealth fund nowadays is wealth funds in two countries. Nowadays are studying a lot of strategic projects in order to start putting them on the list to start, more and more cooperation between the two countries.
Talking about the potentialities that we have, yes, we mentioned some sectors, but I'm talking about it in general, talking the economic trade and more about investments that we can tackle.
Yes, United Arab Emirates can be considered as one of the major importers of Egypt, and our export to United Arab Emirates has increased substantially during the last period. Since, we have here as Egypt, we have a lot of products that are quite required from United Arab Emirates. We have the food industry, we have ready-made garments, all this can be regarded despite the strong competition, because United Arab Emirates is an international country, importing from all countries of the world, and here it is a severe competition, but still we have a comparative advantage regarding, a lot of products that can be penetrating the Emirate market, and I believe that by enhancing types of cooperation in information technology, in studying better the requirements of such markets, where we can, enhance these relations. And Nashwa, there is a very important fact taking from experiences of a lot of countries, that when you increase intra-investment among countries, automatically intra-trade is going to increase. So by concentrating on enhancing intra-investment and specifying the projects that can be, feasible economically between United Arab Emirates and Egypt, I believe this increasing of investment can gradually increase substantially the size of trade between the two countries.
Dr. Youmn Hamaki, Professor of Economics at Shams University, thank you very much for joining us. Right, and moving on to a quick break, then we will be back with more on the press, actually on our breakfast show.